Krishna. Welcome. So today we shall be discussing about the psychedelic drugs and correlation of those with spirituality. Om Jnanathmirandasya Jnananjana Chalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So there is a lot of discussion goes on in the social media groups about whether taking the psychedelic drugs is good or bad for our spiritual awakening. Does it really help in our spiritual awakening process? Is it something that accelerates, or is it something that brings us further down into ignorance? So let's try to look at it. Psychedelics, when you just search in Google, it gives the definition. Psychedelics are subsets of hallucinogenic drugs whose primary effect is to trigger non-ordinary states of consciousness. Now, take a definition very, closely. Try to observe it. It says to trigger the non-ordinary state of consciousness. So, ordinarily, whatever we see or perceive, after taking these drugs, that is not the case. We see something non-ordinary. But non-ordinary does not necessarily mean spiritual. And the substitute name for it is hallucinogenic. That means it creates hallucination. It's very interesting. In Eastern theology, the source of these drugs is described as very poisonous and detrimental to one's physical well-being. The origin of these drugs, including some of the species of the bugs or even reptiles who are very poisonous, like snakes or spiders, scorpions, they all were nourished from the same poison. So drinking or smoking or using weeds or any hallucinogenic or any psychedelic drugs, they literally pull you down to a very gross and ignorant platform. Take a simple analysis. For example, whenever we go for any insurance industry, they always ask you a question: are you on any drugs? Are you smoking? Do you drink? If the answer is yes, then naturally you go to a different category of client who pay a higher premium. Why? Because they know that this makes you a high risk customer for them. So you pay higher premium. Take another example. If you have taken the psychedelic drugs or drinking, or if you have taken any kind of weeds, and if you are driving, and if you get caught, you are in trouble. And if you have few repeated offenses, where you are caught under DUI, you could lose your driving privileges. So why like that? If these substances are conducive for spiritual realizations, then why the basic functionalities like driving is forbidden with these substances? Because it makes you dull. It makes you unresponsive to even a dangerous situation where it requires prompt a response. And how about overdose? If you take the overdose of such substances, it could have serious consequences or even cause death. Whereas spiritual awakening demands the complete or full awareness of yourself. Not only yourself, but your actions, your thoughts. And that's only partial subject matter of self-realization. Because complete realization also needs uh, being aware of the supreme consciousness. But where is the question of consciousness here? It creates you, um, it actually puts you on in a very hallucinogenic stage. You start hallucinating or seeing the things which don't even exist. The definition of hallucination is something that doesn't exist. So these substances create some illusion to make you see the things which do not exist. And this hallucination lasts only for a few hours, which some people take it to be like some spiritual experience. And once that effect is gone, you are much, much more depressed condition. You are pulled down. But spiritual experiences don't make you feel depressed after having some experience. In fact, the effect of that experience rejuvenates you. Every time you have some spiritual experience, you become more and more rejuvenated. You become more and more happy. Another side effect of these substances is they make you receptive to ghost and devilish beings who are very subtle by nature. It makes a person subjected to haunting, get haunted by such beings. So true spiritual experience, they take you high forever. They don't pull you down. They don't have any side effects of bringing you down in any way. So let's try to understand what is the actual process of spiritual practices that really puts you high and actually gives you realization. The process of mantra meditation. That means chanting the very ancient hymns, sound vibration, vibrating those hymns with your mouth. Not just in the mind, but vibrating them loud enough so that you can hear those. Vibrating the hymns and hearing them is called mantra meditation. So uttering some divine hymn and hearing it attentively tremendously gives you purification of your consciousness. Your intelligence becomes much more sharpened. Your mind becomes very clear. And it repels away all the inauspicious elements which are not conducive for your spiritual awakening. So one of the very common and well-known hymn, which is very ancient, given in the Eastern theological scriptures, is the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. This mantra, repetitively uttering loudly so that you can hear attentively, hearing it attentively and distinctly chanting, actually elevates a person's consciousness. Slowly and gradually, you start realizations of your own existence, who you really are, who God is, what is our relationship with God, how my karma, my actions affect me positively or adversely. All these things you can visualize and start seeing. And you can actually start seeing how all these things impact people in your surroundings, how everyone else is getting impacted. This is called realization. You actually become more and more conscious. It's not just some injection, some substance is injected through some injection or taken orally. I see few things for a few hours and then again I'm down. That is nothing to do with the spirituality. That's the most misleading thing that goes on. So if you're really interested, take to the process of mantra meditation and try to avoid all these substances, especially the psychedelic drugs or weeds or smoking. These things only adversely affect. Anyone serious in spirituality or spiritual awakening should try to avoid these substances. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.